Welcome to our deep relaxation class.
Hari Om, Namaste. Welcome everybody. My name is Bryan Nupp and I am the facilitator for our deep relaxation class today. First of all, thank you all so much for taking your valuable time and reinvesting it back in yourself through this offering. I hope that it is useful for you in your journey towards deeper relaxation. So without further ado, we're gonna just find a nice clear, open space. All right. Whatever was going on before class, acknowledge it, leave it there. Whatever you have planned for after class, just acknowledge it and let it be there. This next chunk of 40 to 45 minutes is just for you and your well-being. So try and just clear the slate of your to-dos and past checklists and just join me here for a little while. We'll start in a comfortable seated position, and that could be seated on the floor or a cushion, or maybe at the edge of a chair if that's more accessible and comfortable. We're just going to take a moment and we're just going to open with a breathing practice. All right. This is going to be a very simple breath practice where we're going to start with a 4-count breath in through our nose. And we're going to add a little hand motion just to kind of make this a little more visceral. So we're going to inhale for a count of 4 and then exhale for a count of about 6 to 8. All right. So we're going to inhale and just let our hands float up. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And then exhale, hands together, ground and center, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and or 8. And then again, just let the hands float up, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and or 8. And then just keep that pace up rhythmically. You can alter the number count to anything that really suits you. And just really letting that exhalation be a little longer than the in-breath. As I may have already mentioned, you can let your in-breath be through your nose, and the exhalation can be out your nose or your mouth. And you'll notice a little bit of a different effect either way. Generally, both will be cooling and grounding. If you ever need to just center yourself and chill out, you can do this anywhere, anytime, standing or seated, just to kind of regain your focus. Create a little mental clarity for yourself with this breath practice. Do that 3 more times. After you've exhaled for that 3rd time, just pause, let the hands be in the center of the chest. Now lift the elbows so that your forearms create a straight line that's parallel to the floor. Now just gently look over your right shoulder. A little stretch through the neck, sitting up tall, letting the shoulders relax back and down. And then just gently look over your left shoulder. And then gently bring the eyes back to center, head faces forward. Good. Keep the hands in this position. Now go ahead and slowly press right hand into left. Press, press, press until your hands are right on the outside edge of the chest on the left side. Keep your shoulders back and down. Now look over that right shoulder again. This time, however, gently drop chin to chest or right ear towards right shoulder. You'll start to feel that stretch around your elbow joint and also around the base of the neck. Very slowly and mindfully nod yes, lifting the chin and then dropping the chin down. Bring the head and neck back to center. Bring the hands back to center. Go ahead and just shake your hands out a second and then bring them back to that position right in the center of your chest. Elbows lifted, arms parallel to the floor. Same thing, other side. We'll press left hand into right. Pressing, pressing, pressing until those hands are right on the outside edge of the chest. Turn and look over left shoulder. And then just gently tuck the chin in and or rotate between tucking the chin and dropping left ear to left shoulder. You can invite in a slow, mindful nod. Yes, off to that left side. Hands back to center, head, neck back to center. Go ahead and stretch the hands high overhead. And exhale, press the hands far out to the side. Just make some small dinner plate sized circles. Bring up the shoulders, really pressing through the hands. Now point the fingers down. Change the direction of that rotation through the shoulders. Now go ahead and bring your hands together. This will be our last little seated warm up here. Clasp your fingers together and then just start to rotate out the wrists. You'll notice that your dominant hand probably fell to the inside or your hand closest to you. I want you to go ahead and just pause and switch to your non-dominant hand as that hand, that thumb that's closest to you. Just observe how that feels a little different. Wonderful. We're going to make our way onto our hands and knees. We're going to make our way through a cat-cow shape next. If you have sensitive knee joints, you're unable to practice on your hands and knees, you could actually do this from a chair or two. So really what we're focusing on is this movement in the spine. We're really warming up the muscles of the back, but really kind of starting to loosen up some of the muscles and nerves around and in between the vertebrae. So what we're going to do is tuck the tailbone in, scoop the pelvis forward, suck your belly in, press the floor away through the hands. This is our exhale position, exhaling here, holding for cat. And then inhaling, let the belly relax. Tilt the tailbone away, broaden through the chest, lengthening head and neck. That's our cow shape for the inhale. And then we'll just reverse and repeat. Now, I invite you to have a little bit of exploration in your movements. That could just mean a gentle shrug through the shoulders or a little lateral movement in the side bodies. And let your body and its movement be guided by your breath. Let those breaths be nice and full. Intentional breaths. 3 more times. After that third time, I want you just to slowly tuck your toes, shift the weight back towards those heels, stretch your hands out, let your forearms and forehead just relax towards the floor. While we're here in child's pose, we'll invite a nice lateral stretch by walking our hands over to the right side of our mat, pulling the weight back towards opposite hip, creating this sort of cross the body stretch. Keeping a little traction by pressing your hands firmly down into the mat, even just sort of tiptoeing your fingers out a little further, and then just intentionally dropping the weight back towards that left hip. Do the same thing on the other side. Walk the hands over to the left. Pull your body weight back towards right hip. Very good. Go ahead and come back to center. We're going to prepare for our first downward dog of the class. So all you got to do is walk your hands out like you're going to come into a plank position, hands stacked underneath the shoulders, toes tucked. Now lift your knees above the floor and slowly straighten your legs, lifting your hips up high behind. Press the floor away firmly with the hands and draw the elbows in towards the midline. Your head and neck can just relax here. Now we're still warming up, so our hamstrings might be a little tight. We can bend one leg and then the other as we warm up in our down dog. Additionally, if it suits you, you can just balance on one leg, straightening the opposite leg out behind, pressing that grounded foot and its heel against the floor. Shift back into a full plank or an on your knees plank and just gently lower yourself to the floor. Rest your cheek against the floor and just be here a moment. Press your hands, palms face down against the floor, and just stay here for 3 more breaths. After that third breath, just turn your head to the opposite direction to get that nice little stretch in the neck on the other side for 3 more breaths. Gently bring your hands back up underneath the front of your shoulders. Slowly press yourself back up into that downward dog position. Now we're going to move through a quick little down dog sequence here. We're going to start in down dog. We're going to shift forward into plank. You can drop down to your knees for this. And then I want you just to slowly bend the elbows, drop chin, chest, and then scoop the hips forward and rise into a little baby back bend, little cobra here. Really just accentuating the drawing together of the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades squeeze together, elbows close to the side body, crown of the head reaching forward. So we're not using the help of the arms to press up here. We're just using the engagement through the core and the upper back. And then we're going to tuck the toes and just simply press back up to downward dog. And then we're going to move through that same cycle again twice more. Forward into plank, slowly all the way down. Inhaling up for cobra. Exhale, hold in cobra. Inhale here, one more breath. Exhale, prepare for down dog. Hold in down dog for a few breaths, and when you're ready, complete that last set. Next time you're in downward dog, start to walk the feet up in between the hands, coming to the top of your mat to stand. Gently shake out the head, yes and no. Inhale, come up halfway. Hands on knees or thighs. Exhale, release the fingertips back towards the floor, hinging from the hips. Keep a nice deep bend in the knees. Inhale, return to standing. Hands come up last. And exhale, hands relax back down or touch in front of the chest. We'll move through a couple of rounds of sun breathing next. This is another wonderful anytime, any place activity. If you ever just need to kind of stretch, release some stress, and relax. So we'll start by just kind of standing with our feet just underneath of shoulders. Just take a moment to shift the weight forward and back in your feet. Shoulders back and down, standing up tall. When you're ready, inhale, bring the hands up and overhead. Take a little back bend, just gently pressing the hips forward. Exhale, hinge from the hips, forward, forward. Inhale up halfway, hands to shins, to yoga blocks, or to thighs. And just from the sides, you can see I'm really lengthening through the spine, pulling my shoulder blades together here. Exhale, release, back to forward fold. Inhale, roll on back up, hips stack, shoulder stack, hands stack last. Big breath in, and exhale, hands touch in front of the chest. Inhale, reach the hands back up and overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Drive those heels down. Exhale, release, little bend in the knees. Inhale, roll on back up. Hands rise last. And exhale, hands touch in front of the chest. Very good. I'm going to encourage you to try and do 2 more sets on your own. Let your own breath practice guide the pace of your movement. So when you're ready, let's all start with an exhalation together with hands in the chest, hands in front of the chest. And then when you inhale, that will begin your sequence. Inhaling, hands overhead. With your next exhalation, just go ahead and relax the hands down. We're going to go ahead and step the feet out wide to the side, just about an inch or two outside of our shoulders. You can place your hands on your hips and then just slowly start to rotate through the hips. Making some nice hip circles here. When you're ready, go ahead and just pause and switch. Slowly bring the hips back to center. We'll move into some spinal twists next. The arms are just kind of float like loose coat arms in the breeze, or just kind of swing like the nodule on a pendulum. And all we're going to do is rotate. The hips are going to generally stay sort of squared off, maybe just kind of like this is the range of motion for the hips. All right. But we're really just twisting from those hips up, trying not to twist in the knees at all. Front of the head reaches up. I like to think of the hand as like a metronome that helps me keep track of my breath. Every time I hear and feel the hands slapping, I'm counting off my breath and measuring it. And for this one, I like to breathe in for a count of 4 to 6 and just exhale for a count of 4 to 6. Gently come back to center. All right. We're going to move into just one last standing position here. Then we're going to get into a little bit of a lunge series. Our standing pose for this evening's class is going to be a triangle pose. And so I'm going to step my feet wide again. All right. I'm going to look down at my right foot and I'm going to rotate that right foot out. So I'm creating this perpendicular line, right foot and left foot. All right, almost creating like a bit of like a right angle there between the feet. Now I want to move up now into, let's start with the knees. I want to keep this front leg just gently bent, not hyperextended, just gently bent, not super bent, just very gently bent, little micro bend. All right, this leg strong, pressing in. All right, this leg strong, pulling in. So we're creating a bit of adduction here, kind of squeezing in towards that midline. All right. Now, at the same time, we're looking at our hips, and this time our hips are going to be set forward, just like this. Hips like headlights on a car facing forward. All right. Keeping the legs and hips in this position. Now, bring your awareness to this left glute. We're going to start to press this left glute back, kind of like you were hinging at your side body here. And you're sort of hinging to peer over the edge of that right foot, as if there was like a cliff. You didn't really want to get too close. You just wanted to stretch and look out over that edge. Now from here, you could just keep your hands on your hips, but I want to encourage you, just gently start to reach this right hand down above or below the knee. Probably immediately when you do that, you'll probably start to feel this stretch here in the left hip and side body. Your eye gaze can stay facing down, eyes looking at that right big toe, or you can turn your eye gaze up towards the ceiling. The other important thing here is to keep your chest open. And if you wish, you can extend that left hand up and overhead. Keep your breath nice and steady. We're going to be here for about 20 more seconds. Slowly bring left hand, left hip, bring a bend in that front leg. Take a little counter stretch by bending that front leg deeply and reaching that right hand up and overhead behind. And then go ahead and relax. Both feet face forward. We're going to reset, and then we'll shift it over to the other side. So I'm going to turn my left foot out. I've got that perpendicular line here, heel intersecting arch or heel. All right, little micro bend in this front leg. Leg's not hyperextended. All right, checking in on hips. It makes a little adjustment so my hips can face forward here. All right, chest broad and open. I'm going to start to press that right glute back. Hands gently lowering into position. Right hand reaching up, and then finding that eye gaze that's sustainable. Slowly take your time, bring a deep bend in that front leg. Left hand reaches up and overhead behind. And slowly relax, feet face forward. All right, go ahead and come on back to center. Now we're going to make our way into a lunge series next. So when you're ready, we're just going to go ahead and come down with our right foot out behind, right knee on the floor, left foot in front. If you need to bring a blanket or a cushion underneath of that right knee, you're welcome to. And then when you're ready, just simply join me right here in this lunge. All right, nice 90-degree angle and that front leg. Make sure your hips are sort of level. So both hips are here. Sometimes it's sort of easy to be out to the side. We want to make sure we're not twisting it all through the hips. Inhale and lengthen the hands up and overhead. Stretch through the spine. And then as you exhale, just walk this front foot forward and just gently start to shift your hips forward and down. Should feel that big stretch right here in that hip flexor on the right side. And exhale, gently begin to straighten. Lower the fingers towards the floor. Pull those front toes up, moving into a brief hamstring stretch. Lengthening the spine, inhaling here. If you do have yoga blocks, they're really handy to have. I'll grab a couple just to demonstrate really quick. So in that extension, you can just have your fingertips resting gently on the yoga blocks, and then slowly plant that foot back down. Shift the weight forward, hands reaching up, belly drawing up and in. And then again, exhaling, hands lower down to blocks on the floor. That front leg starts to straighten. And when you move into this hamstring stretch, make sure you're really engaging that left glute and pulling it back towards the wall behind you. That's going to keep your hips level here. Slowly inhale, plant that front foot. Last time, hands reach overhead. Sink that front hip forward and down. And exhale, hands to blocks. Last time, hamstring stretch, toes pull up, left glute pulls back. Very good. Now we're going to go ahead and actually walk our hands up to frame that front foot, okay? And we're going to tuck the back toes and straighten that back leg if you can. Now you might need to have your hand on a block here, this right hand. We're going to take a twist to the left. Your left hand can stay on the hip as you start to twist through the navel, the torso, the chest. You might even wish to extend that left hand. You certainly do this with a knee down as well. Slowly lower the hands to frame that front foot. We're going to press back into our down dog shape to transition to the other side. When you're ready, step that right foot up in between the hands. Take just a moment. Find that lunge on this side. Right foot forward, left knee down. And then when you're ready, come back into that sort of tall kneeling lunge. Hips square and level, not twisting off to either side. All right, I've got my blocks in position. And we're just going to move through the same sequence. We're going to inhale and lift the hands overhead. Gently drop the hips forward and down. And as you exhale, you can slowly start to hinge from the hips, straightening that front leg, pulling the toes up. I want to make sure that I'm not twisting in the hips or leading with this right glute forward. Instead, I want to pull that right glute back behind. Inhale, reach the hands up and overhead. Going down to that hamstring stretch. Just continue your own pace. We're going to do this 3 more times. On this last time, you can just gently start to frame that front foot. All right, we're going to move into that twist now. You can lift that back knee if you wish. Gently square the hips together. Reach that right hand up and overhead as you twist to the right, or just keep this right hand on the head. You might prefer to keep the back knee down instead. Slowly lower that right hand to frame the front foot. This time we're going to just slide this right foot back, coming onto our hands and knees. We're going to come into a little version, something in between child's pose and down dog. We're going to keep the hips high, but we're going to come out to our forearms and just lower our forehead to the mat, keeping a nice arch in our back here. Very good. Come on back up to your hands and knees. I want you just to take a moment and survey your surroundings. Go ahead and clear any props or blankets or pillows so that they're at least an arm's length away. Right, we're going to make our way onto our backs. We're going to come into a lying down twist. Okay, so first we're going to just take a moment, just get accustomed to being on our back. We're just going to hug the knees in towards the chest here. Just take a few breaths, maybe rocking side to side or just holding here, gently cradling the knees. And when you're ready, go ahead and extend the feet so that you're making like a right angle with the legs. Bring your hands out to the side in a T shape. It's going to be important to keep your shoulder blades on the floor here. Now we're actually going to lift our hips up and scooch them on over to the right, just like that. And then our knees are going to gently fall down to the left. All right, your knees might not comfortably rest all the way on the floor, in which case you could use a block or a blanket to place in between or underneath of the knees. If you wish, you can look over your right shoulder. This twisting movement's just kind of like wringing out a dishcloth. Good for the physical body on so many levels. And when you're ready, go ahead and bring the knees back to center. Recenter the hips. Take a moment, maybe just hug the knees back into the chest, gently rock. And then when you're ready, Knees back in starting position, right angle. Gently pick up the hips, scooch them over to the left this time, and let your knees gently lower down to the right. Eye gaze can turn and look over that left shoulder. Gently bring your head and neck back to center. Slowly recenter your knees, re-square your hips, and slowly place your feet back on the floor. We're going to move into our closing moments of class, this closing sequence. And I'm going to give you a couple different places where you can end class. One is this classic constructive rest, where your feet are about as wide as your mat and the knees stack in and rest against one another. This is going to be really restorative for the sacroiliac joint, the SI joint of the lower back. You can rest here for our next couple minutes. You can also just come into the classical Savasana with arms and legs extended. You can do this with a little bolster or blanket rolled up underneath of the knees. That's going to relieve a little pressure out of the back as well. Lastly, something that you could rest in would be a restorative bridge. Knees in alignment with hips, feet on the floor. Just bring a little yoga block or a firm cushion underneath your lower back and just pull your shoulder blades together and gently tilt your chin away. So find yourself into one of those three poses or another closing sequence of your choice. I will come to sit just to facilitate and monitor our time. I will just be here for about the next 60 to 90 seconds. Let yourself assimilate all the different movements we've explored tonight. You can take a few seconds just to really tune back into that intentional breathing pattern. You can just let your focus and attention be on your breath just for these last fleeting moments. Just rest in silence for the next little bit of time. And gently start to move your fingers and toes. If you're in that restorative bridge, you can just gently slide that block out from underneath your back. Take your time to roll over onto one side. Just pause there in a reflective space, or just a grateful space. And when you're ready, or if you're called to, you can join me back in a comfortable seat to close our class. Again, thank you so much for sharing your valuable time. I pray you have a peaceful evening, and I do look forward to